Hello again, and thanks for coming back for The Hammer, an Umpire podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Weber. In this episode, we're going to have a health and wellness segment, a rules segment, and an Umpire Spotlight. Well, my umpire season has come to an end. I worked 151 games, my final one coming this past Friday. I worked a fall game over at Western Michigan University. I was lucky this year to work the most collegiate games I'd ever worked in my 5 years of doing it. 36 games, so I'm pretty pleased with that. Hopefully it'll be onward and upward next year when the new assignments start coming out. I was also able to work quite a few high school level games and earn my second state finals here in the state of Michigan, which we worked down at Michigan State University and at their nice campus and facility there. So when you work a state final in Michigan, you work 2 semifinal games and then one of the final games. We have 4 divisions, Division 1, 2, 3, 4. And then throughout the summer, like many of you, I'm sure, I worked a good deal of tournament games for varying levels, all teenagers basically, 18U and below. And I worked a little bit of the Summer Collegiate League that's here in Muskegon. So it was a successful year, and all of us always hope to maintain what we have and then move on to something bigger and better each year. It doesn't always work out that way, but we can always hope, right? Well, we'll be right back.
Don't miss out on the last few weeks of football action with Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching the playoffs. The app is simple. Pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Download the Prize Picks Daily Fantasy Sports app today and use code FIELD and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code FIELD on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game. Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
I like to call this segment the health and wellness section. The baseball umpiring season has come to an end for me with the game I worked this past Friday. And now I'm in off-season mode. But when you're in off-season mode, as many of you I'm sure are aware, you can't take everything off. You've got to try to keep yourself in the best shape that you can. If you live in a colder climate like I do, that can be challenging at times. When it's warmer out here up in Michigan, I go for walks as often as I can with my dog and around the neighborhood and try to keep active that way. I'm not much of a runner. And I try to go to yoga a couple times a week. I usually go Wednesdays and Sundays at the YMCA. That's not too far from my house. I know some of you, maybe yoga, not really your thing. You don't really think about doing that. But as we get a little older, especially us umpires that are over 40, we definitely have to keep our flexibility because if we don't, we're more susceptible to injuries. So I've had a number of injuries, if you will, over the years. Several years ago, back in 2006, I had back surgery. Had just kind of some bad luck with my back and ended up with a spinal fusion on my lower couple vertebrae. So I like to keep that as flexible as I can, and I've been pretty lucky with it. I'm obviously still on the field working. I mean, you don't have to be doing back bends out there to umpire, so I do yoga primarily for my back, and I go to the chiropractor every week or two, get adjusted, and that seems to help as well. I've had knee surgery on both of my knees for meniscus tears in the last couple of years, but luckily they're healthy. And those are both from umpiring for sure. I've had gastric recession in both of my calves because I've had very tight calves and I was quite susceptible to blowing out an Achilles. My right ankle, I've had some ligaments repaired. And so, yeah, I've had a few surgeries there, but I'm pretty healthy now. I'm certainly not as quick as I was back in high school. But I want to go to yoga, do my chiropractor, walk, and keep my weight down, which is at a reasonable level. I mean, I could certainly lose 10 pounds or maybe slightly more, but I look all right. I mean, and there's no doubt that your fitness figures into how you progress as an umpire. One, it affects you on the field for your ability to, be in position and be able to use your judgment the best you can. But also just the way you look. Assigners see that, other umpires see that, coaches see that. One way or another, it figures into your evaluations. And if you are overweight and not in shape, it's going to affect you for that. And it's also going to affect you as far as your evaluations. So I urge you to figure out what you can do for yourself. I mean, if you're a jogger, that's great. If you're a guy that likes to lift weights, that's great. You go for it if that helps you be in shape. But you've got to do something to maintain your flexibility and your strength and to keep your weight down. If you're a younger guy, you're in your 20s or younger, that's maybe not a problem right now, but it will be. You can ask any of us older guys. If you're in a warmer climate, I know maybe that's not as difficult. Maybe you're working more games, but if you are working more games, you definitely got to keep your flexibility so that you can do that. I definitely maintain that throughout the winter months, and then when February and March rolls around, I'm very conscious of making sure I don't skip any opportunities to do my stretching and to even get outside in the thick snow with my dog. I got a chocolate Labrador Retriever that likes to go out anytime he can and get out there with him and walk around and get the heart pumping. So make sure you're doing something. If you have any suggestions on what you do that might help other people, feel free to send me an email or leave me a voice message on the Anchor app. And I'll be happy to try to play it and figure it into one of our future episodes. Each show, I'd like to do a little segment that deals either with a rule or mechanics or a special situation that umpires frequently encounter. It could come from pro rules, NCAA rules, or high school rules. And if I get some feedback from people about some things that we'd like to discuss, I'd be happy to incorporate that into the show. But for today, we're going to look at the newly revised 20-second action rule for NCAA baseball. So, basically all collegiate baseball. Now, NCAA Rule Appendix F, there already exists a 20-second time limit for a pitcher to begin his motion to deliver a pitch when the bases are unoccupied. But now, for 2020, this has been extended and to include when there are runners on base. So as you can imagine, there's going to have to be an umpire timing this on the field unless there is a visible clock. But a visible clock is not required. So really only higher level Division I schools might have a visible clock. But if you're working a JUCO game or even like a D3 game or many D2 games, you're not going to have a visible clock. You can't use a stopwatch very well for this. You're never going to catch any balks or any kind of other infractions that are happening if you're looking at your stopwatch and resetting it for every 20 seconds. So much like they have for football and other sports, the little box timers have been developed, and they're selling them for around $70 a piece plus shipping, I think. And on those, it clips on your belt, and I use it as one of the 3-man cams. You flip it up one way and it's the 120 seconds for them between the innings. You flip it down the other way, it's 20 seconds, and it vibrates at the different segments along the way to let you know. And then you put it in the middle, it's kind of neutral and it's off. And then you can actually pay attention to your responsibilities on the field. There's been a lot of hubbub about this. Some people think this is going to cause some problems. It very well likely will if it's not enforced right, particularly when there's not a visible clock. So basically, if the pitcher is in the dirt circle and then the catcher is in the catcher's box or in the circle area and the batter is set, then the pitcher has 20 seconds to begin his motion. Doesn't mean he's got to throw it. He's got to be ready to go, or he's got to make some kind of play on a runner, and then it would reset. Some schools, some Division I schools that I've heard about, are trying to get around that, where they think that they can have the catcher hold the ball, but if he's holding the ball in the catcher's box area or somewhere within the dirt area around home plate, it's going to start, and the umpire does have the discretion just to start it if he thinks anybody, not just the catcher, is trying to skew the rule and waste time. So that's not going to work either. They want you to be ready to go and not wasting time there. If there's a foul ball, it starts when the plate umpire, of course, puts it back in play once everybody's all set and ready to go, like it should be, what you normally do. So each pitcher gets warned if they violate the rule. They get warned. Then if they do it again, every time after that, it's a ball. The batter needs to be in the box before 5 seconds is up and ready to, see a pitch. If he is not, then it's a strike. So they can't just try to slow it down to, try to get a cheap ball called on the pitcher. We'll see how this works out. It's going to be interesting. I've got to get myself one of these timers. Probably, get it for Christmas or something. That seems like a Christmas present that's useful, I guess. And you have to look into it. If you work collegiate ball, I'm sure you probably have heard of this. Gone to any camps this fall. It's definitely been talked about. I worked on it in a camp this past fall. And it didn't work too badly for the box timer, but it's definitely a work in progress. So I'd be definitely interested to hear any of your feedback on that. Send me an email, tweet me, or send me a voice message, and maybe we'll use that in a future show. Now it's time for our Umpire Spotlight. And for the first segment, I'd like to do Doug Harvey, the Hall of Fame baseball umpire, whose nickname was God, that he earned from players. He was the last Major League umpire who never attended umpire school, among other things. And now that's impossible to make it to the Major Leagues if you don't go to umpire school. So Doug Harvey died back in early 2018 of esophageal cancer. He had chewing tobacco was his big thing when he was coming through, and that'll get you. Same thing it did to Tony Gwynn. But anyway, when he retired, he had ranked third in Major League games worked. He had worked well over 4,500 games, and he worked in the National League from 1962 to 1992 when the leagues were split. If our younger fans don't know, that's the way it was for quite a few years. He was a well-respected umpire throughout his career, who seemed to have the perfect blend of no nonsense with game management, where he could handle a situation without inflaming it. That's always a key component of any official of any sport, and Doug Harvey could do that. Came up through California, San Diego area is where he was from. He officiated several sports throughout his career, but best known for baseball. Worked 5 World Series, 7 All-Star games, 9 National League Championship Series. He was the umpire behind the plate when Kirk Gibson hit the famous home run in the '88 World Series. I remember him working the 1984 World Series. And of course, when I was a kid watching the Tigers, we didn't really get to see the National League guys too often unless they were on TV for Game of the Week or such. But if you watch him now, he still seems, if you see old clips of him anyway, he still seems a little more on the modern side compared to some of the other older umpires. Of course, the National League worked the inside protector, like we all pretty much do now, whereas the American League was working the balloon back in those times. And so he that's the way he works, so it looks a little bit more like what you might be used to. So there was a book that came out called They Called Me God, from several years ago, a biography on Doug Harvey that I read, and I highly suggest it. Very good. You obviously learn about his life, but also a lot about his umpiring philosophy and his story, and every umpire has an interesting story that makes it to the major leagues. There's never really an easy road there, and it wasn't for him either. In 2010, he was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame by the Veterans Committee, and there's only a handful of umpires that are in the Baseball Hall of Fame, and he is definitely deserving of that. Be interesting who you think are any current umpires that might make it to the Baseball Hall of Fame. I can think of a few, but if you want to shoot me an email or tweet me or leave me a voice message and let me know what you think, we can have a little segment on that as well. So anyway, there's our spotlight umpire for today, Doug Harvey. Well, that's all we've got for this episode of The Hammer. Thanks for joining me. I hope you'll come back again. If you have any feedback for me, as always, feel free to email me at spinalfusion06@yahoo.com. Tweet me at Kevin R. Weber, KevinRWeber, or go to the Anchor app, make sure you have an account, and leave me a 60-second or less voice message, which I'd be happy to try to use on a future show. Until then, keep calling strikes.